All right, so I am just getting around to reading the Fatal Attractions comic and watching X-Men 97 simultaneously while doing this here. The most recent episode, in particular in episode 9 here, Toleration is Extinction Part 2. It's amazing how much the show is following from the 6-part series in the comics here. And I cannot believe what happens in the 4th book of the series here, where Professor X just goes ballistic on Magneto. So I cannot wait to talk about that here. But just to start off with, right, the very first comic is X Factor 92, and Magneto is presumably dead right after the destruction of Asteroid M, which we saw in the series as well. Now, his acolytes, who are mutants who follow Magneto's cause, are back on Earth, and they are pretty much just out for blood. They want revenge because the humans caused Magneto to die, but we all know that's actually not true. We'll talk about that a little bit later on here. And they are just brutal, right? It starts off with them attacking a hospice care facility. Talk about no freaking morals whatsoever. And they call the humans flatskins for whichever reason. That's apparently like a nickname that they use for the humans. Now, by the looks of it, they kill patients and workers, like all the patients and all the workers that are at this facility. And you can see like the patients in absolute terror. There's one where like he barges into the room and you can see the patient like looking around like, what is going on right now? And then he just like, I think it's like Fabian Cortez, like he holds one of the bags that's like supporting this person's life, and he just doesn't care, right? Like none of them care whatsoever. Now, one of the acolytes named Senyaka takes his psionic whips and ties it around one of the nurses' necks and basically sucks the life out of her. Now, the victim that he does this to, her name is Nurse Leslie, and she's actually the one that's narrating the very beginning of this series here. And she's talking about pretty much telling them like what happened at this hospice care facility that she was at. Now, we fast forward, see her in the hospital bed here, and she looks like she's in rough shape. You can see what Senyaka did to her here. You can see like the markings on her neck, and you can see the markings on her face too. We also see Valerie Cooper there. We see Havoc, who is Alex Summers. So he's a younger brother to Scott Summers here. And then interestingly, we also see Pietro now, which is Quicksilver, right? Now, Quicksilver is essentially kind of like the crux of this initial story, because really what the acolytes want, they want two things, right? The main thing is that they want to get revenge against the Homo sapiens, aka the humans, aka the flatskins. But in doing so, they want Pietro to become their new leader. Now, for those who don't know, Pietro is Magneto's son, or at least in this particular time in the comics, like he's Magneto's son. And the acolytes, the thing that the natural progression here is that since Magneto is dead, that Pietro should just take over the leadership role. Fast forward to the Pentagon, where we see one of the acolytes that gets captured, which his name is Andrew Graves, aka Spore. So then Pietro shows up into the room, and the demeanor of Spore changes immediately, like drastically changes. He drops to the floor and basically starts worshiping Pietro. Might as well kiss his damn toes, if you ask me. And because of that, the group was actually able to get the information from Spore that they need to find out what the acolytes' plan was going to be next, which was that they wanted to hit their military operation base, the government's military operation base at Cape Hayden. So Val, along with like this other mutant named Random, who is a bounty hunter, and Quicksilver, now they're starting to board this helicopter and they're heading out to Cape Hayden. Now, of course, the X-Factor team is not just going to sit back and do nothing. So they get their transport plane, which was actually made by Forge, and Polaris is controlling this plane. Now, worth mentioning here is that the additional X-Factor characters that are here, or team that are here, is we have Multiple Man, there's Strong Guy, and then there's also Wolfsbane. Now, something interesting happens here on the X-Factor, like while they're on their way to Cape Hayden, while in the air, something hits their plane, and to their surprise, it was actually Bennett du Paris, aka Exodus, which is like an Omega level mutant. So if he wanted to level out that plane and then destroy the X-Factor team at the same time, like Homeboy could easily do it. You understand me? But he just looks at them. They have like a staring off contest, like from the Wild Wild West. And then Homeboy just like flies off, which is weird, but we understand a little bit why as we kind of move forward here later on in some of the other sections. So then we jump into like the next comic here, which is like the X-Force number 25 comic. Surprise, surprise, we see that Magneto is not actually dead. So instead, what he did is that he was about to die because of Asteroid M here, but then one of the acolytes actually ended up saving him. Not one that's, I think that's with the group right now, but one of the acolytes ended up saving him, and we'll kind of explore that a little bit later in another section. But he created this place that they refer to as a mutant heaven, which is called Avalon. Now, Magneto's plan here is to recruit mutants and to have them come to this heaven called Avalon, and then ultimately essentially wage war against Homo sapiens, whoever tries to stop him from having this Avalon. Now, Exodus shows back up here, and Magneto is essentially using Exodus to be able to recruit specific mutants that he wants to be a part of this Avalon. So that whole stare down between Exodus and the other X-Factor on the plane was him probably like assessing like, okay, who am I supposed to grab from here? Like, okay, do I grab him now? No, I'll see them later. That's kind of like what I think was going on there. So in the X-Force comics, he ends up taking some of the X-Force members up to Avalon to see Magneto. And then Cable, like, who was back now, who everybody thought was dead after the whole like strife thing, he's back, and he ends up going up to Avalon to rescue the X-Force members and then bring them back down to Exodus. But he stupidly kind of decides to go head to head with Magneto, which is like really, really dumb because Cable is like half metal and it's Mag freaking Nito. So why the hell would you go up against this dude? So Magneto just dusts this dude. Like he could have killed his ass, but I mean, he chose to kind of like just leave him in bad shape. Basically turns this dude inside out. Like, it looks gross a little bit, right? It doesn't look good. He ends up then teleporting back to Earth to see the rest of the X-Force team, and they kind of just leave it there until we get to like Uncanny X-Men 304. So in Uncanny X-Men 304, this is where things start to kind of get really sexy. You understand me? So in Uncanny X-Men 304, Exodus comes back to Earth again, this time to see the Acolytes, to basically just like reveal the truth. Like, hey, this is what happened. Like, Fabian Cortez actually tried to kill Magneto and then left him to die on Asteroid M. So the Acolytes just want to kill Fabian, but Exodus stops him and tells them that, like, yo, listen, instead, just prepare for Ascension. It's better for you guys just to get up to Avalon. Like, we don't really need to deal with Fabian. Now, Fabian, like a freaking idiot, decides to try to attack Exodus, who legit just like bitch slaps him down to the ground and leaves him there. Cause like, seriously, bro, like, you are no match for Exodus. What did you think was gonna happen, my guy? And then we fast forward and we see Charles Xavier. This man is in pain because Iyala Rasputin, aka Magic, had just died, and he feels like an absolute failure because of it. So Illyana had died because Strife had created the legacy virus, which is deadly for mutants, and Illyana was one of the first ones to catch this thing. What bothers him more about her is that, number one, she's like a child, right? Like, she's so young, and he felt that deeper because he was starting to wonder, like, man, I keep bringing along these people to be a part of my dream that he has. And the reality is that mutants give up essentially everything that they hold dear to risk their lives for this dude's dreams. And in some cases, like, these mutants, their families are saying, okay, I trust you, Charles Xavier, as well. And then, you know, for her to end up dying because, you know, they blame him, you know what I mean? They're like, okay, well, like, this is your, like, he feels that this is his fault, which I'm gonna be honest with you, like, no crap, Xavier. Like, we've been saying this to you for years, bro. Like, recruiting these people and having them be a part of your dream, like, I don't know, like, I know you have a dream, but sometimes you gotta really think, like, maybe we shouldn't bring everybody along. Maybe we should be a little bit more careful. Maybe you should give them a choice. But in the way that he recruits them, it makes it sound so good that you just want to go along with it anyways. And Colossus kind of brings us up a little bit later here. So we kind of see like Landra, she shows up, she tries to comfort him, but he still feels, you know, so lonely here. And then we kind of see him go a little bit further along, and we see him like get in like right in front of his desk before we switch to a different scene here. We see right in front of him something called the Magneto Protocols, which we're going to talk about a little bit later because this is huge here, which is something that you probably saw also in like the X-Men 97 series, or at least they mention it. So we fast forward here to Illyana's funeral. So everybody and their mama is here. X-Factor is here. X-Force is here, minus Cable, of course. X-Men are, of course, there as well, including Bishop, who's from the future. Kitty Pryde, who is her best friend, is like really feeling it right now. And then Colossus, who's Illyana's brother, starts laying into Professor X, not like physically, but just like with his words. He's like, yo, Professor X tries to tell him like, I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry for your sister. But Colossus is just like, bro, I left my life. Are you really, first of all, he said like, yo, are you really sorry? And he's like, yo, I left my life and I cling to this idea of being a part of a larger whole for the good of humanity and mutants. But look, bro, my sister is dead. This is a dream that I believed in, and that dream failed me. It failed me. It failed my sister. And I could feel for him because something's going on. Like he couldn't revert back to his human form. So, and when he's in that form that he's in, the words are escaping me what form he's in right now. But when he's in that form, like he can't cry. Like so he's not even able to like express that emotion and cry it out. So he's just like, dude, like I'm feeling all this pain and I don't know what to do. We saw him earlier trying to like burn pictures of his sister. And I'm like, yeah, dude, like that's not the way to get over it. But he just doesn't know what to do because he's just like, he's feeling it in the moment and he can't really get those feelings and express that off. So like we fast forward here, Magneto crashes the funeral. Like what a dick move, but this dude crashes the funeral. And you may say it's coincidence, but I feel like he did this on purpose, like to just prove a point. Now, a lot of them still think that he's dead because of what happened on Asteroid M. So some of the X-Men are surprised to see him there. Then we see like Exodus and the Acolytes, they show up too. Now, Magneto in this moment is just OP as heck. First and foremost, this dude legit stops everybody from moving by controlling the iron in their blood. So people are just like standing still. They can talk, but they cannot move. Like they cannot move a muscle. Like their mutant powers are still there, but they cannot do anything. And at the same time, this dude brings out one of the Acolytes. So you remember Senyaka, right? And he just like uses his own psionic whips against him because he was upset that they murder people basically without his consent, which honestly sounds kind of stupid because Senyaka is like a soldier. He's following the new leader that's there. He didn't know what Fabian Cortez did, so he was just following what he thought was the right thing to do based on the leadership that was there. Like, why not kill Fabian Cortez? You're gonna be like, why go after Senyaka? Like, Senyaka is just like a simple minion if you want to look at it from that perspective. So he kills him basically just to make a freaking example. And I'm like, bro, like that's kind of just grimy, bro. Like, I don't understand. And then at the same time, he starts to bring down and hover Avalon over the earth. It's like, he's doing all three of these things at the same time. He's holding their blood, their iron in their blood and stopping them from moving. He killed, Senyaka, and then he's bringing down this thing and holding it over the earth. Because think about it, at any point in time, if they kind of even attack him, like this crap could just drop over earth and, that, I mean, you don't want that, boo-boo. So while Magneto kind of wasn't paying attention here, this is what happens. Like, he doesn't realize that he's emitting all of this energy, but what's happening is that Bishop is being charged from this energy because one of Bishop's mutant's abilities, right, is that he can absorb energy and then he can, like, it charges him and then he can throw it back. But this is like an involuntary mutant ability. So this is not something that he can stop from happening at all. So it just kind of like, he's like, it's charging him up, and then he starts to like release it, and he essentially kind of releases it here at Magneto. Rogue tries to kiss Magneto to like take away some of his power, but he's so strong now that from the previous time when they met him, that basically doesn't really do anything to him. And then after Bishop releases that initial energy blast, right, then the rest of the team starts to kind of charge him up too, like start to give him their energy because they want to use him to then blast Avalon out of the sky. But Colossus, he was like, no, screw all that, bro. Punches him in the back. So Colossus is just like, yo, maybe if I was with Magneto this entire time, I would not have lost my sister. So he decides to join Magneto, and then he ascends into Avalon along with the other Acolytes. Now, Magneto is basically rubbing this in Xavier's face, basically saying, listen, this is your fault. Like, this is what you get because you ultimately, you sold these people a dream that ultimately they can't really live out. So now I'm taking your people with me. There's going to be more to come. Here's what happens. You lost, I win, right? So then Xavier just goes off. Like, he climbed, and this is not the ultimate showdown, but this one was pretty damn good too. So Xavier goes off. Like, he climbs up Magneto. Like, he grabs Magneto, starts climbing up him, gets face to face with him, and then controls Magneto and ascends him and Magneto. So both Xavier and Magneto are ascending into space, into Avalon here, and he makes sure that he moves Avalon away from hovering over Earth any longer. And then we just see, like, they say something like Xavier technically probably could have killed Magneto, but then chose not to. And it also said too that, like, Charles Xavier has never really shown his true power, and in that moment he was just like, I am going to show you, bro, that I am a freaking beast. This is what I do, baby. And then after he gets Magneto out of the Earth and he falls down, Archangel catches him, and then we fast forward to the big showdown in this whole damn series. So this is the fourth comic here, which is X-Men 25. Now, after that fight, right, the president initiates the Magneto protocols. He initiates the alpha and the beta version, which is to put a magnetic force field around the Earth, so that if Magneto comes back down into Earth, he's not going to be able to use his powers. So that pisses off Magneto. So he travels down close to Earth and releases this EMP blast that just completely handicaps Earth. Much like in X-Men 97, it shuts down any technological or mechanical sources of the entire planet. The plane crashes happen, medical equipment failure. They're saying that like thousands of people have died, but like in reality, it's probably like millions of people that probably died, right? So then Professor X comes up with a plan, and this time this dude is not pulling any punches. He comes out of this like exoskeleton suit, which he got from Shi'ar, which basically takes psionic energy that allows him to walk. So it does weaken him a little bit here, but now he's able to walk and be a little bit more mobile. Now his plan is to go to Avalon and basically destabilize Magneto at any cost. So he puts a team together of of mutants here. It's Wolverine, Gambit, Jean himself, Rogue, and then Quicksilver. Now, in all honesty, he kind of views this as not necessarily a suicide mission, but one where he wouldn't be surprised if they do not make it back. So he leaves other X-Men there on Earth just in case, ish happens, right? So Cyclops, Beast, Storm, and others are still on Earth. He would have actually probably left Jean too, but he needed Jean because Jean, he's looking to use like a psychological attack against Magneto to kind of stabilize him here. And he needs Jean because he's weak and his power is going to be weaker because he's going to be using that exoskeleton suit to be able to walk. So he's like, yo, I need somebody else that has a powerful mind. So he decides to bring Jean along with him too. So the team gets to Avalon, right, and basically kind of like sneak up on them and ambush them. But what they didn't actually realize was that Colossus, remember, he went with Magneto on Avalon. Colossus was actually working so that the security system would not be able to alert the Acolytes and Magneto that there were any intruders that were there. I assume Colossus saw Magneto and just saw like the brutality that happened, was just like, you know what, bro, like I cannot go along with this any longer. So this is what I am going to do. The team also teleports all the Acolytes and Exodus, because you don't want to deal with that dude right there. They teleport them outside of Avalon in space pods, basically back to Earth. Now, none of the X-Men are going to be able to hold the floor against Magneto. Magneto finds out that, hey, after he starts seeing people teleport out, he's like, okay, I'm about to bring the fight to them. So Magneto versus the X-Men is about to happen now, but really this is going to end up being a 1v1 between Magneto and Charles Xavier. Everyone tries to go at Mags, but it's really no contest. Like, he slices Gambit's mouth and basically tells him to shut up. Rogue is too hysterical to actually fight properly. Jean doesn't feel comfortable with what Xavier is trying to have her do, which is basically to use Magneto's pain and anguish against him so that it can just like stop him from like make him second guess himself and all that. And she just didn't feel very comfortable with it, which is kind of like ironic if you ask me. But either way, like, Pietro then tries to challenge Magneto 1v1, but Mags is like, listen, son, if you don't want to follow my path, you are better off dead. So get yeeted, my guy. But he did manage, before like Magneto like was hosting him up, to like knock off his helmet. And then right before Magneto could kill Pietro, Wolverine sneaks up on him and stabs him with his claws. Like he gets him good right here, just like how you saw in the X-Men 97 series. Magneto definitely felt it for sure, because you can see him, you can see him like hunching over here, but he countered and he starts, this is the scene right here, he starts to rip the adamantium out of his body. Like, damn, like it don't look good. Like you can see his mouth open. He's writhing in place, like floating. I'm like, bro, this looks painful. This also looks kind of gross, if you ask me, but definitely painful as heck. Jean is pretty much the only reason why he doesn't perish, because Jean is essentially kind of like holding his body together, also trying to like prevent him from even feeling the pain so that he doesn't scream. So like she's the reason why like this is not like super agony for this dude right now. And then Xavier, this dude just goes off. Like he loses his ish. He basically attacks Magneto. He held him by his head and starts to like blast his mind. It's actually kind of funny because they show like a blast from Xavier's mind to like Magneto's, I guess, the visual effect, right? But you know, Xavier is like, bro, you have caused the death of so many millions. You're about to cause the death of my Wolverine, my X-Men. Like, yo, you've gone too far. Like you have gone off the freaking deep end. I cannot let this linger anymore. So then what he does is that what he said that he did is that he took away all of Magneto's hatred. He took away his ego, took away all of his nightmares. He took his mind away to end Magneto being a threat to Earth any longer. So this, like, he left him in a vegetated state. Like Colossus was just like, yo, like Magneto's in the vegetated state right now. Like I'll take his body. I'll move it. But like, dude, like, yo, Professor X goes off, bro. I've never seen, like, two things. I've never seen Professor X use a power that he did to, number one, get Magneto out of Earth and into space in the first place, and then to do something like, it's like we know that he could wipe people's mind, but to do it to Magneto, that's a different level. That's like, that's a different level, for Professor X to go to here. So that's kind of like really ends like the big dramatics of Fatal Attractions. Like after this, we get to like there's a Wolverine comic where we get to see this. Now this scene is kind of dope. Like Wolverine in that one, he actually pops his, like he doesn't have the adamantium anymore, but he tries to pop his claws, and then we see bone claws come out of him. Like that crap was actually pretty damn fire. And then in the following book after that, in Excalibur, the only thing that really happens there is that we see Colossus, and they get Colossus to come back to the X-Men, and he was fighting with the Acolytes, and they get him to actually go back to like his human form. But he still ends up going back with the Acolytes after that again. But really, there is not much that happens in that situation. Rachel Summers does fight Nathan Summers, so they kind of go after each other here, which is like brother and sister crime. So that does happen, but I mean, apart from that, there's really nothing else that happens in that particular series here. So listen, let me know what you think about this. This is absolutely crazy. Like I said, this is the first time that I've read through the whole entire thing. Now, after this, I believe Onslaught's supposed to be coming, from all the fiasco that happened. So we're probably going to see maybe that happen in the X-Men 97 series. Let me know what else it is that you want me to cover on the channel. We would love to be able to do some more comic reading and some comic breakdowns here. This was absolutely insanely fun. Like and subscribe to the channel for more, hit the notification bell. And until next time, and as always, guys, thanks so much for kicking it with Keeping It Comic. Bye.